How to deal with a laissez-faire boss. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Shut Up and Work podcast. I am your host, the coach, and today I'm going to talk about the laissez-faire boss, submissive style, or the hands-off type of boss. They all mean the same. So first, I'm going to define what a laissez-faire boss is. Then I'm going to talk about 3 ways to identify if you have this type of boss. And next, I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with them in the workplace. And finally, I'm going to summarize what I said. So first, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about defining what a laissez-faire style type of boss is. Now, in simple layman's terms, you can just say a boss that doesn't care, or they simply just don't give a. And it just basically means they're hands off. They let the employees make the decisions and fend for themselves, or you could say supervise for themselves. Let's be clean. So that's basically what it is. That boss doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody. They just want to go sit in their office or go walk around, come up missing, or if they're teleworking away from the job, they're not going to be found, especially when they're needed. That's just a basic definition of a laissez-faire boss. Now, if you're still confused and still maybe thinking,
I wonder if my boss is the laissez-faire type of style.
then here are some things that might help you identify or bring clarity if he or she is this type of boss. The first, you got to understand, as an employee, you are being paid to work, not to manage. You want to come in and do your assigned task, and if there's a problem, you would like for your boss to resolve it. That's how most employees think. And to tell you the truth, that's how they should think, because your boss, he or she, is being paid to be the person that when a problem arises, they are the ones that should be going out there and solving the problems and solving the issue, not you as the employee. So if you are dealing with that in your job, then you may have a laissez-faire boss. Number 2, you have no backing from your boss. This is usually how your boss is, because again, they're not being around when you need them, when something serious is going on and you need a decision to be made. And then you may have a case to where they want you to make a decision. And let me tell you, no, don't you do that. Because if you go out there and make a decision that your boss was supposed to do, then a lot of times what ends up happening is if upper management finds out that something went wrong, or you made a decision on something, or you signed for something that you wasn't supposed to, then the hammer is going to come down on you. And the reason why, because your boss that was supposed to be making that decision is going to leave your ass hanging in the wind. And of course, when it's out there in the wind, they're going to be the first one to kick the hell out of it because upper management told them to do it. So that's another thing that you need to look out for in your job. Third, if you're trying to improve and grow. Now, I understand that all employees that may be hired for a job, they may just be happy that they have the job and are currently satisfied in the position that they are in. But if you are trying to grow, maybe you want to become a supervisor. Maybe you want to go work in another department. Maybe you want to be the head honcho or the head dog in whatever organization or job or company that you are working for. Well, if that boss is not there to try to train you, to groom you, to let you take on additional tasks that's going to help you, and when you are trying to advance up the corporate ladder, then there you go. Because that boss is never around. They don't want to train you. and stuff that you may be needing to do, like a certain type of training that you need to get to that certain level, that boss may be lacking on finding out what training you need. They may be lacking on your evaluation, whether it's quarterly, semi-annually, or annual. They may be always behind on that and never getting you the right information or preparing you if you go for an internal interview, the things that you need to have in your belt in order to advance in that situation. That is the third thing. Now, I talked about 3 things on how to identify and try to hopefully provide some clarification if you are working for a laissez-faire manager. Now let's move into some tips on how to deal with a laissez-faire boss in the workplace. Now, so the first thing you want to do is just like with an authoritarian boss. Some of you may have listened to that previous video. You want to make sure that whatever he or she is telling you, get them to put it in writing. That's going to be very important because, as I just stated a couple of times before, this type of boss doesn't want to be around when an important decision has to be made or a problem arises. So therefore, you want to make sure that it's written down when things go wrong and your boss tries to put the blame on you, you have something to fire back, or you have that shield to defend yourself. Second thing you want to do, keep them constantly engaged by telling them or emailing them on certain phases that you are doing in your job. And again, this is very similar to the authoritarian boss. One of the tips on how to deal with them. The same thing with this boss, because once again, you want to make sure that you put out there and you let your boss know when something critical is coming up or a decision needs to be made on how to resolve this particular problem. You don't want any surprises, because remember, this boss is not going to be around. And once they do come around, because maybe upper management found out about this problem or situation, then that boss is going to play dumb and act along with upper management, and you're going to end up with all the blame. Third, the thing you want to avoid, getting all your coworkers and, forming a clique or a gang or a lynch mob and going into that boss's office and trying to remove them or trying to state that you're unhappy with them. So that works with an authoritarian boss, but with this type of boss, it doesn't work. And let me tell you why. Because what may happen in this situation, you may flip that switch called fear or fight in this passive boss, and then that passive boss may turn aggressive. They may turn into the authoritarian boss or the dictator boss, and they start coming after you and your coworkers, trying to write you up for any small thing or trying to fire you if something critical happens. So you may be the one to wake them up. As the old Southern saying, that you let a sleeping dog lie on the porch. And all that means, you see a dog lying on the porch, it's not bothering you. Don't you go over there. Don't throw rocks at it. Don't wake that dog up, because that dog may be vicious. It may have bitten 3 or 4 people before you come across it. So if you see him on the porch, it's not bothering you, it's not barking, leave him alone. You may want to approach this boss by yourself and try to get a one-on-one in this situation. So don't do that, because it may aggravate them and they may take it as you're ganging up and blaming them for everything that's going wrong, which technically you are, but you want to take a better approach in doing this. Fourth thing, if your boss refuses to make any decision and wants you to take the lead, and if you decide to take the lead, then hey, you need to tell that boss and let them know, this is what I need from you. So again, let me repeat that. If you do take the lead because your boss doesn't want to step up and make a decision before you take that lead, please notify them and tell them what all that you need them to do. So in other words, if they going to have to back you up on a certain decision that you're going to have to make, then you need them to do that and make sure that they put it in writing. Any type of resources that you may need in your job, that boss needs to provide that. They need to give you all the tools and everything you need in order to resolve any problem or issue with that job. The fifth thing and the final, if all this other stuff fails, then go to your boss's boss. Now, remember, just like the authoritarian boss, you don't want to go in there slinging mud or throwing rocks at a glass house. How you want to approach your boss's boss, you want to approach it in a way that you are trying to make things better and you are trying to improve the company, agency, or organization. You want to see things grow. And so when you go in there and talk to your boss's boss, make sure that you word it to something as,
Hey, I presented this idea to boss so-and-so. I haven't got a response in a couple of months, but if we do this certain task or we do it this certain way, this will put us ahead of our competitors. This will put us ahead and make our company better, or this is a way our company can stand out against everyone else.
that's how you want to present your problems. You want to word it in a way that makes it a company thing and how it will better everybody's job in that company, not going in there slinging mud, as I said earlier. So now I talked about how to deal with the laissez-faire boss in the workplace. Let's do a quick summary. So basically, I define what a laissez-faire boss is, which is basically standoffish, leave all the employees to themselves. I gave you some traits on how to identify if you may be working for a laissez-faire boss. And I gave you some tips on how you can deal with this boss in the workplace. So with that being said, I hope this episode has helped and provide you with some clarification and ideas with dealing with this type of boss. And I wish you good luck and success in your career. And please don't forget to like, share, and drop me some comments on your work experiences with this type of boss. And last but not least, please subscribe to this channel if you love the content. So with that being said, thank you so much. And I will talk to you on the next video. Take care.